Now that I have explained how Stoicism was applicable to a common person like myself, I will discuss the origins and some of the leaders who used that philosophy. There was a philosopher who was known as Zeno of Cyprus. He was a really wealthy merchant. But one day he became shipwrecked in Athens. Around 300 BCE is the estimated time frame. After the shipwreck, he lost all of his money and all of his possessions. With nothing else to do, he just wandered into a bookshop. While he was in the bookshop, he started reading Socrates. After becoming interested in philosophy, he started to seek out and study with the city's noted philosophers. Eventually, Zeno began educating his own students. That's when he originated the philosophy known as stoicism. Basically, his teachings of virtue, tolerance, and self-control inspired generations of thinkers and leaders. Now, the name stoicism comes from the Stoa Politica, and that is the building where Zeno and his disciples gathered for discussion. Today we use the word to describe someone who remains cool under pressure and avoids emotional extremes. The original Stoics believed everything operates according to a web of cause and effect, resulting in a rational structure of the universe, which they called logos. While we may not always have control over the events affecting us, we can have control over how we approach things. Rather than imagine an ideal society, the Stoic tries to deal with the world as it is, while pursuing self-improvement. Now, the way they pursue self-improvement is with the 4 cardinal virtues. The first is practical wisdom, the ability to navigate complex situations in a logical, informed, and calm manner. The second is temperance, the exercise of self-restraint and moderation in all aspects of life. The third is justice, treating others with fairness even when they have done wrong. The final and the fourth is courage, not just in extraordinary circumstances, but facing daily challenges with clarity and integrity. The idea is that only people who have cultivated virtue and self-control in themselves can bring positive change in others. Now, that was the origins. There were a few leaders who used this as a strategy. Marcus Aurelius ruled over Rome for 19 years. During his reign, he had the resolve to lead the empire through 2 major wars, while dealing with the loss of his children. If you ever get the chance to read Meditations, you can listen to the audio book on YouTube, but if you ever get a chance to read Meditations, it's a very interesting read. This book was not even meant to be a book at all. It was just simply Marcus Aurelius journaling his thoughts. That's all it is. But centuries later, when Nelson Mandela was in jail for 27 years, he stumbled upon Marcus Aurelius's journal. It comforted him, and he started to use the idea of stoicism in his own personal life to help himself deal with being in prison. Once he was finally released, he started to believe that the past couldn't be changed, but in the present, everyone could come together and reconcile. Now, Stoicism was active as a school of thought for several centuries in Greece and Rome, but as a formal institution, eventually it started to fade away. But its influences are still around us today. One of the individuals who was also a leader influenced was George Washington. He was introduced to Stoicism by his neighbors at the age 17, and later put on a play about Cato, who's Cato the Elder in Rome, to inspire his men in that dark winter at Valley Forge. Thomas Jefferson had a copy of Spensa, which is a book about Stoicism, on his nightstand when he died. Both were influenced by Stoicism. Something interesting is that George Washington had a really terrible temper, but he learned how to control that anger, how to assess the situation, simply through the practical wisdom of Stoicism. Now that I have showed you that Stoicism not only is applicable to a dishwasher, a regular person, but also some of the greatest leaders that influenced some of the greatest nations and other individuals, I will explain in the next video practical ways that you can practice Stoicism. Practical exercises that you can do that will not cost you a dime. It will just cost you your time and diligence.